Hello everyone, in today's tutorial I'll be going over how you can make an 18th century style outfit in Houdini. We'll go over some draping techniques and how to layer the entire outfit using references. So, let's get started. For this project, I have this geometry that I got from the content library on side effects. This geometry was used for one of the draping technique kind of tutorials that was released in 2018, and so I just got this from there. This isn't a model I made, and we're going to be using it as our body for this entire draping exercise. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to go through every single part of the outfit until we get to the end. The reason I'm not doing it from scratch is because it's not going to look exactly the same as the one I did. So I just find that it's easier for me to kind of go through each drape and explain why I did the things the way I did them. Alright, so for the first part of our outfit, I'm going to pull up a reference. So we have this outfit. This lady isn't actually from the 18th century. I don't think she is. I like the way this inner piece was done, and I like the way the sleeves kind of attached to the gown. I like this sort of V at the waist, and I just like this outfit, but this doesn't mean that she's from the 18th century. In order to figure out how an 18th century woman dresses up, I looked for some tutorials and some people who would explain exactly what those people would wear at that time. So I found this channel, and she kind of goes over the entire outfit of what she's wearing. This is like the final look of everything, but basically she starts off in this thing called the sultana, which she kind of uses to cover up, and then she exposes the underwear, and this is a corset that she has that she's wearing on top of the cotton gown. And then from there she goes to something called the under petticoat, which is kind of like a skirt that you tie, and it just goes and hangs by the waist. I didn't do the tying, I just did this string by the waist, and then the dress kind of just falls like that. Then the next thing, she added some pockets. I didn't add the pockets because it's not practical to what I need. But the most important thing that she added was this called the panier, and this is what gives the gowns that shape, that sort of bulky shape at the hips, and they're called pannier hoops. When you look at the pannier hoops, what you notice is they have like a string that attaches them to the waist, and then they have some sort of boning inside. But this is not the only style of pannier hoops. Basically, she wears this pannier hoops, and then she goes to the petticoat, which is like the bottom of the actual dress, and it has some details at the bottom, but it doesn't have like any particular way of styling it. Basically, it's like a skirt that's worn over the pannier hoops, and then she attaches some other things like to kind of finish the dress. So basically she's attaching the front, and then she's kind of wearing the sleeves to go over that, and then yeah, so that's kind of how it looks like. And then the gown is finished. The gown has a lot of details to it. I didn't add all of the details, but I showed how you can achieve or accomplish some of the details if you wanted. It's not like I've made this complete outfit, but I've done enough for you to be able to kind of move forward from what I've made. Okay, and here I'm just showing some other examples of pannier hoops. So you can see it's not like there's only one particular way to make it. I think you should just do what is going to give you a similar shape, those gigantic hips that were kind of like the fashion statement of that time. Okay, so let's do a simple curve, and we're mirroring it to make the inner gown. I call that chemise. That's not the actual name, that's just what I use for my project. And so the basic setup that I'm going to be using for the entire project is I will create some curves, I'm going to mirror it, I'm going to fuse it so we can close up that gap. I'm going to resample the curves, and we can see that. So this is how it looks before resample, this is how I'm resampling it, and then I'm converting it to a planar patch. I'm adding my UVs because you should do your UVs when it's flat like this. It's much easier. And then I'm transforming it. I'm going to turn this on just so I can see. So I have one for the front and I have one for the back. And I kind of group the points that I'm going to use to attach the geometry, and both the front and the back have those groupings. Then I'm grouping the entire thing. I'm calling it chemise, which is just for organizational purposes along the line because we have a lot of layers. Okay, and then we're making our vellum constraint. All of this you can see in my file, like it's there. And we're just having a vellum drape. Pretty basic. Okay, now when I did this vellum drape, I saw there were some issues here at the hip, and there's this thing going on at the back, which I think happens when your outfit is not like properly tailored to your body. So in order to fix that, you can attach a vellum post process. Right. I added that edit note there just to reduce the size of the geometry over there. Okay. So I can add a vellum post process, and then I added a sculpt. And for this sculpt, what I just wanted to do was to smooth some things out initially. And when I look at my reference, like I have a lot more wrinkles here, and for this one I just added like a couple more wrinkles using the sculpt. So for me it just made it look a bit more believable, but I feel if you animate this, the sculpt will probably not like be as the way it is right now, unless you kind of just constrain that part to be more stiff. And then I added another group called frizz chemise. Yeah, so that's the inner outfit. After every single simulation, I'm doing a clean, and I'm preserving color if there's color. I'm preserving the cusp angle and my UVs. Apart from that, I'm deleting everything, because if you don't delete a lot of these attributes, it can affect, especially when you have a lot more layers down the line. Okay, so the next thing, like we saw, was the corset. And for that one, I've added a corset shape. This shape I got after a lot of trial and error, so you kind of have to just figure out what it is, as like you're going to make mistakes, so you're going to have to make those mistakes before you figure out the shape that works. It will help if you have some knowledge of sewing, which I do not, which is why I looked at references before I got this shape. So basically it's the same thing: the curve, the resample, UV flatten, create your groups, and add a general group for everything corset. And then we're just going to merge it in with the existing chemise. We are going to add the same constraints for our initial gown. And what we want to do now is to make sure we're pinning the points so it doesn't move. And here, this chemise is on layer 0, and when I add the corset, this is on layer 1, because I want it to be heavier than the outfit that is at the bottom. So just make sure you kind of pay attention to that. And for this one, the corset is actually quite stiff. There's not much bending, there's not much stretching, and that's because I wanted it to be as stiff as she said in the video. Despite that fact, there's still some bunching here at the back, but like we did with the chemise, you can fix that very easily with the sculpt after. So I do a vellum post process as usual, and this time I added a color just so I can see things differently. I made sure I grouped it, and here I've done some extra things like smoothing, which kind of got rid of a lot of the bunching at the back, and I did some additional sculpting just to kind of mold it properly to the way I want it to be. So this was pretty basic. The next thing we're going to do is the under petticoat, and for that one, as we saw, it had like a belt. that the bottom was attached to. So I could just do like a skirt from the waist, but I wanted to do it attached to a belt. And so it's the same thing. I'm doing like the grouping for this one. So for this one I didn't draw a curve. I just did a planar patch, and then I did a UV and a bend. That bend is just to wrap it around the waist, and then I just use a transform to place it just by that waistline. And then I do a grouping of the bottom. And the reason I've done this is because after I've done the entire vellum draping and I want to attach the bottom of the under petticoat to the belt, I want to know how many points are actually in at the bottom, so I can determine how many points I would need for my under petticoat. So I will explain once we get there. So it seems I actually missed one point, which would explain a lot, but that's fine. So I then have done a vellum constraint. I've brought in my chemise, I've brought in my corset, and then I have this, the under petticoat belt, and then I just do a simple drape and it just lays by the waist. I do a vellum process, I clean, I color, and then I'm going to add my skirt. So for the skirt, I have a planar patch which has a hole in the middle. Now, based on the group that I made for this belt right here, I know how many points I have, and the number of points I had would correlate to the number of points I have here. And because this is like a planar patch and I'm making a circle in, I can't know for sure how many points I'm going to create. None of these here will create those points there. So you have to adjust the size, you have to adjust the arc, you have to adjust like the edge length, and that's going to get you to the number of points that you need. So for this one, if I come over here, the group here is called bottom under petticoat, and then I can just check here, like what is in bottom under petticoat. That's 32. Okay, so I know that I need 32 points if I'm going to join these ones together, right? I can also check it here, just because sometimes when you've done the vellum drape, because 2 points are merging together, it can like reduce points or increase the points. So I can just cross check it here, and that's bottom petticoat. So now it says 31. Okay, so I know it's 31 points that I need. So whatever I'm doing here with my edge length, I know that I want 31 points. So that edge length and everything here gave me the number of points that I needed. I make sure I group everything, and then I also group the top, but it wasn't necessary because this is a planar patch, so the numbers aren't actually sorted. You can have like 824 and 828, and that's how it is. It's just kind of out of order, so it didn't really matter if I grouped the points here and if I grouped the points there, because in the vellum drape you can do that thing where you kind of just select groups and then you put like group 1, group 2, which is what we did for the chemise here. We did that. We did chemise points and chemise points too. We did that, but because this is a planar patch and the numbers are out of order, you kind of have to write the numbers. But you don't have to do it like doing this and then like really zooming in and doing it like that. If you select, okay, so if we have a grid right here, and I want to select all the points like along this side, so I'm just going to select this and I'm gonna click Shift A, and that's going to select all the points along there. And I can do the same thing, Shift A, and I can select all the points there. So that's what you can kind of do just to save time with selecting the points, because you can't put them in a group because they're not ordered. So once I have that, I can do my vellum post process. I can make sure I'm grouping it. I can smooth it out, and that's how it looks like. One thing I want to point out for the vellum drape here is because the outfit, I'm going to click untick load from disk, but because the gown is, the bottom of the under petticoat is so large, if you don't change some specific values, then it's not going to behave the way that you want. So normally for time scale, the time scale for the vellum drape is 0.2. Okay, so if I just leave it as 0.2 and it kind of joins, that's how it acts. It's so slow in dropping. So the drape is not going to behave the way that I want. So if I change the time scale to 1, and read what the time scale says, that means it's going to fall it's going to fall faster than 0.2. So now that I've changed the time scale to 1, it just comes together faster and then it drapes. So that's how I was able to get that. So pay attention to that as well. Depending on what you want to do, you might need to change the time scale. So same thing for here. Oh, I've lost my handy model. Okay, she's back. Okay, so we change the color, we do a clean, and then we're going to the pannier hoops. This was really fun to do. For this one, I have this, which is like meant to be an attachment for my hips. So I have that, and I kind of copy it to 4 parts across the body, and then I group it. But for the actual hoops, which are meant to fall by the side, I had to be a bit inventive about that. So I made this planer patch as well for it to attach to, which has a bend stop. And for the actual pannier hoops, what I did was I had a planer patch that I bent like that. I added my UVs, so that's how it was. And then I added like some other attachments to the top, just so that this part could kind of stretch out, as here. It's like a tube, and I just like deleted some parts of it, and I just deleted those parts so that it would kind of stretch to accommodate these ones. And then I just did another vellum drape, and so it gave me this shape. So I could have basically done a tube and it would have been the same, but I wanted it to have that sort of stretched out look so it doesn't look too uniform. And so this was the basis of my pannier hoops. That's how I wanted it to be. And so I just like mirrored it on the 2 sides. So to do this pannier hoops, you need to have, you don't have to do it exactly the way I've done it, but you need to be able to establish this shape. You need to have like some things to kind of hold it, and you need to have a belt for everything to attach to. So when you merge everything together, that's kind of how it looks like. Okay. So we do the same thing. We're bringing in all of our outfits, and finally we're adding the belts and the pannier like hoops to everything. So we do another vellum drape, and for this one, same thing as the corset, we want it to be very, very stiff. So for the pannier belt, for instance, I don't want it to like stretch or bend too much. I want it to be pretty stiff, and that's kind of the same values or similar values as I had to my corset. Okay, so once I have that, once again I'm smoothing, and here I did notice I had a little issue. So in order to fix that, I had to do some sculpting. If you look here, it's just like right here. I had to do some sculpting and just move it a bit, because when you're layering an outfit, any little bump is going to show eventually. Okay, so once again we do the clean, and then I believe it's time for our dress. So I did something different to how she wore the dress, And what I did was to add the top first. And the reason I did that is just so that the bottom can drape properly. If I had done the bottom first and then I tried to do the top, it's more likely that the bottom will pull the top down and it's not going to drape the way I want. And for this one, how I made the shape, it's basically like how you would sew a corset. You want some arms and you want like this side part, you want it to be joined to these two middle parts. And for the back, you shouldn't duplicate it exactly because the front has like a curve for the bust, but the back needs to be more like, it needs to be higher and it needs to be more sturdy. So if we just take a look here, we've moved down a bit. Okay. So if we just take a look here, these were the ones I used. Yeah. I just did a curve. You start with a curve, really. I transformed that. And for this curve, I didn't close it because I didn't want it to be a complete shape. So if you look here, I left the curve open. I transformed it on the z-axis so it's completely flat. I did a fuse so I could eventually close the shape, and then I did a planar patch from curves. And the reason I did it this way is because I wanted to be in control of the number of points that would be at the side. If the number of points aren't the same, then you can't do a good drape. That's just how that is. So you kind of want it to be like the same thing, right? And it's the same for this one. Because I drew them on like this axis, the length of this curve is similar to the length of this curve. And so that meant when I needed to join it, the number of points would be around the same, and that's what happened. So once I had that, all I have to do is to mirror it, I have to group it, and I have to merge. So I did a similar thing for the back. Just do a curve, flatten it, resample, make it a planar patch, and then you mirror it. And then I added my arms. I'm just looking for where my arms are. Okay, right here. Yeah, I believe there's a better way to do arms, but it worked for this particular example. And when you do the vellum drape, because of the way you've kind of structured the outfit, it drapes very nicely over the body. The only thing is that because of the clothes under, it has these weird bunches all over the place, especially here. It's bunched so badly. And at the back, it's just bunching all over the corset. In order to fix that, what I did a vellum post process, and I did a detangle, resolve self collisions, and I added some thickness to it. So that inflated the outfit a bit. And sure, when you're simulating this, you'd probably have to add some extra constraints to the body so it doesn't fall off. But for posing, I believe this works because all you need for this is for the outfits to not intersect. That's the most important thing. Okay, so once again, we make a group and we add some color. And now I want to do the bottom. So the bottom I did is similar to the under petticoat first, but it wasn't working the way I wanted it because of the pannier hoops. So instead I just had a planar patch that I did a bend on, and I added that to my outfit over here. Exactly. So that's how the outfit looks now. And if we look really closely, there was some intersection around here. But we can always resolve that, like it's fine. So once again, with the vellum post process, I'm doing a smooth because I wanted this to blend nicely. And the next thing I want to add is some details. Now, because of the way we've constructed the top, we have a very nice edge here. a very nice line that kind of just goes down like that. I'm just pressing Shift A basically, and I can have that nice line. So if I wanted to attach something, I can easily attach it to this edge. And if I didn't construct my outfit like that, like if it was just something like this, you would see that it's unable to find like a proper path to the bottom. So it's very helpful to look at how other people construct their clothes, or how clothing is actually made, for you to figure out how to make your own outfits in Houdini. So first I want to add the details to the hands. And in the drape tutorial that I watched, she did it in another way, but I wasn't looking for something as refined as that. Like mine was fine just to kind of attach it to the outfit like that. So that's basically what I did. I didn't bother doing like the shrink group or anything, because I didn't feel that I needed that for this outfit. I think it would have been nice because it would have made it look more refined, but for this outfit I just felt it was fine. So that's basically it for that. And then now we can finally add the detail to the bust. So to add the detail, I want a planar patch again. I grouped it, I did a UV, I transformed it, I did a mirror, and so I've placed it like directly where I need it to be. And then I've added the shrink group, because now I want that capability of it shrinking inwards and being much nicer than the details on the edge of the sleeves. So I bring in every single thing again, and here is where I bring in my frills. So I bring in my details here, and here I have the shrink group. So for this shrink group, what is most important is reducing the rest length scale. The rest length scale allows the outfit to kind of shrink inwards into itself. So it's going to give us a nicer detail than if we didn't do it. So this is what I have when I didn't do the shrink group. I just kind of added the sleeves, and so you can see it's not as detailed as this one will be. So when I add the vellum drape, we can see it looks a lot more detailed and a lot nicer. If I didn't add the shrink group, this part would not be like, it wouldn't have the detail or the detailing or the wrinkling that it does now. But because of the shrink group, it has that detailing. So once again, do a vellum press process, because we need to weld the outfit together. And that's basically the entire outfit. Once I'm done, I just add a post process, and that's the entire outfit. So here is just some extra things that I did so I could have like the outfit layer on into itself. But this is basically how you layer and create like an 18th century outfit. And just to reiterate, as you keep going, ensure that as you add new layers, you're like updating, as you add new parts of the outfit, you're updating the layers based on how heavy you want it to be. Because if you don't, it's not going to behave exactly the way that you want. That's just something to note. So I did do a lop net, and to texture it, I did some work in cups, but that's not included in this project file. I didn't feel that that was very necessary, but if you would like to see the details as to how I made the material for the outfit, you can let me know. I'll be making more outfits this year and really excited to share that with you. But that is the end of this tutorial. I've included the project file in the description. Let me know what you think, and see you soon.